Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paraton's Mission Transition podcast. I'm your host today, Brian Acton, and I'm here with our military and veterans team. So we welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll go ahead and get right into some introductions. So I'll start first since I'm already talking. So I'm Brian Acton. I've been in talent acquisition over 25 years, and I've done it across multiple genres, if you will. So I've been a technical recruiter, full desk recruiter, sourcer, headhunter. I've done it across the government as a contract recruiter and in corporate sectors. I'm also a veteran of the Marine Corps and the Army, and I've been with Paraton for 5 years. So Brent, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brian. So my name is Brent Buffington. I am retired U.S. Army. Started out as a human intel collector, so it definitely gave me the gift of gab as far as talking to people. So moving into recruiting, especially while I was in the military, just kind of came natural. Once I left out of there, I just kept doing recruiting. I've done everything from Guantanamo Bay down to Southcom, Marcom, you name it. And I've actually been with Paraton for a little over 3 years now. Absolutely love it. And I just hit my 1 year mark with the talent acquisition team for the military and veteran transition team. So loving every day, loving this position. I love talking to people.
Good stuff. Well, glad to have you on today's podcast with us, Brent.
Yes, sir.
Jeff is here with us. I think Jeff might be having some technical difficulties getting back in. It kicked us all out like right when it was supposed to start, everyone. So we do apologize for that. But I'll introduce Jeff a little bit. A lot of folks on the call or on the podcast today may know Jeff Carson. Jeff's everywhere. He's all over the place. He's been in talent acquisition, with over 16 years. He's been with Paraton for 7 years, and I think 7 or 8 now. And he's kind of our resident event master. Jeff goes to a lot of events over the years, specializing in military and veterans and so forth. That's what our team does. So that's kind of what we do as a military and veterans team as well. The three of us really work to, I guess you could say concierge our military and veterans. And we work with everyone, though, to really concierge your applications through the application processes here at Paraton, reaching out to recruiters and hiring managers on your behalf and so forth. So if you're looking to get a role here at Paraton, absolutely reach out to one of us. We'd be more than happy to help and see what assistance we can be. So moving on into what we're going to talk about today. So what we're going to talk about today is a brief synopsis of each podcast we put on. So what we do with these podcasts is we kind of run them in 6-month intervals, and we cover different things in each podcast in length. But we're going to cover bits and pieces of each one today, to hopefully gather and gain some interest from the folks watching and maybe come into the other podcasts, so you can understand what we're going to be covering in those ones. Because obviously we couldn't cover those all in one podcast, or it'd be like 6-7 hours long, and nobody wants to do that, and nobody would probably listen to it anyway if it was that long. So basically what we're talking about today, so we'll talk about session 2 because we're in session 1 right now. So session 2 is translating your experience. So we really dive in depth on that one, on translating your military skills into civilian language that resonates, with recruiters and hiring managers, and that it just kind of makes sense. Session 3. We'll go over that one a little bit, decoding job descriptions. That's a real powerful one as well, because we really give an idea of the words we put in job description as employers, and how you can read that as a candidate to do an honest self-assessment of your qualifications against those roles. Mastering resumes and ATS optimization. ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System, if you didn't know that. So what we talk about is building a powerful resume. We don't necessarily talk just about the content you put in the resume. We also talk about formatting in a way that speaks to recruiters and hiring managers while they're reading it, and also helps get you through those applicant tracking system pieces, right? And then we'll move into session 5, leveraging your LinkedIn. That's probably one of my favorite ones. It's very powerful. We're a very LinkedIn heavy organization. The three of us use LinkedIn a lot. So we really talk about using LinkedIn for the job search, how to grow your network the right way, how to engage on LinkedIn, and get a response from people you're reaching out to in the job search process and beyond. And then session number 6, we talk about mastering interview success. That's where we put all the previous sessions together and really inform you on how to be fully prepared for your interview in the best way possible. And we really give a lot of advice on answering questions, how to answer questions, and where to get the information to answer these questions, right? So I see Jeff was able to jump back on and join us. So Jeff, I did a brief introduction for you, but why don't you go ahead and do one for yourself because you'll do it much better than I did.
Thanks again. I don't know what happened.
It's a deal.
1 minute, it's like pop, it was gone. So I apologize, everyone. So thanks again, everyone. My name is Jeff Carson. I'm one of the military veteran outreach leaders as well. Been at Paraton for 8 years. I am a former Army recruiter and also retired Army veteran. So I attend a lot of the in-person events here in the DC metropolitan area and also a lot of virtual events as well. So I'm just glad to be on the call today.
Yeah, don't let Jeff fool you, folks. He's being a little humble. He's our road warrior. He's at more events than he's not. Let me put it that way. He's more events than he's not in that sense. So, so this is the three of us for everyone, watching and listening in. The three of us are the Paraton Military and Veterans talent team. So we'll jump right back into what we're talking about right now. So the next podcast that we do is on February 20th. They're always at the same time. They're always on Fridays. But on that one, we talk about translating your experience. And we get into a lot with this too, and how to really put information in your resume that makes sense, that's understandable to the folks that are reading it, right? Especially with transitioning service members. It's a lot more difficult than it sounds. So we really go into deep dives on those things. We really talk about career goal alignments, really crafting a focused, objective statement that aligns your military background with your civilian career path that you're looking to get into, and those type of things. We really talk about why that is such an important and effective part of your resume, concise job overview, how to write clear, compelling summaries of your military roles and achievements that grab attention, but also make sense to the career path you're looking at post-military. Showcasing that impact as well, highlighting specific tasks, measurable outcomes to demonstrate your value and effectiveness for those roles you're applying to. How to quantify achievements using those numbers and percentages to validate your accomplishments and boost your credibility as a candidate. Transferable skill identification. We also talk about how to identify some of those other skills, those key military skills, and apply directly to the civilian career opportunities at the same time. So this one's a good kickoff. When we do that translating your experience, it's a real good kickoff into really creating a resume that makes sense for the careers you're looking for. Because I know one thing the three of us see on quite a bit of time, especially on a transitioning service member's resume, is if you look at that objective statement, a lot of times you'll just see a gluttony of capabilities, right? So it's not uncommon for me to look at a resume and see, retiring, lieutenant colonel with, skills and abilities in logistics, human resources, operations, program management, you name it. It just lists all these things, right? But it doesn't put any focus onto what you actually are. Are you a cybersecurity professional with 18 years of experience? Those type of things. So we really talk deep onto that objective statement, where to put some information on your resume that it's searchable and easy to find for recruiters. I know the three of us really talk quite a bit about the 10 to 15 second recruiter read, right? So when you're looking at the information and what you put on your resume, we really talk deeply on about how do we look at it, how do recruiters look at it, and where should that information be so that you can get it what you're trying to deliver to us in 10 seconds or less, those type of things. So Jeff, I know this one's a big one for you. I know we talk a lot about that objective statement and really tailoring those up. What kind of information can you add on that I haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, that's a good point, Brian. And basically, as you mentioned, just make it coincide with if it's a position that you're going to be applying for. It doesn't have to be, 5 sentences. It's not always how much information it's quantifiable. I mean, it's information that's relating to your background. So me personally, I like a brief, impactful summary, 2 to 3 sentences tailored towards the role. You can also mention in that summary certifications. You can put and some relevant keywords if you're actually applying for a particular position. And what this does is it gets the recruiter's attention really quick when they see those things that they're looking for if it's a particular position you've applied for. So when they see some things that's in that key requirement, in that summary, that gets, first of all, it gets me engaged immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one, like I said, this is one we put on February 20th. Obviously, we go into much more depth and much more detail, when we give that one. But that's our goal today, is to really kind of give, just a brief synopsis of what we cover in some of these upcoming podcasts as well, and give you guys some basic information today as well. Because you can always watch our podcast on the Paratime Military and Veterans page on our website at the same time. So that's a brief one of the Translating Your Experience podcast that we put on. The one we do then the following month, because we do these once a month, is Decoding Job Descriptions. This one's a great podcast to come to because we really go into depth on how to effectively, legitimately as a candidate, read a job description and determine if you meet and fit the qualifications that we're looking for in these roles, right? Because it's not uncommon for us to talk to a lot of people that are looking at our roles and are applying to roles that they are not qualified for, whether it's missing the right security clearance or missing numbers of years of experience that are required for the role. And we also talk in detail about why that information is important, which is the most important information, which is the information that you can probably get past and those type of things. So, this one's a fantastic one if you're struggling to get contact back from recruiters, right? Because we help you identify those keywords, the core keywords of that role, which of those are making the qualifications. We talk about those core qualifications and what employers are really looking for with their job description. So we also break down each section of a job description, the job title, the summary, possibly some roles will even have, what customer it supports, is it supporting the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Space Force. Roles will typically have a little bit about the responsibilities, the day-to-day activities the role will be doing. And then it's going to jump into the required and preferred qualifications. So we'll talk about those required sections for you as a candidate and how to look at those and determine what you must have to be considered an eligible candidate for these roles. And then we talk about how to read those, though, and really highlight the key responsibilities to ensure that those are in your resume and so forth, because that's when you pass that 10 to 15 second read. So now somebody's actually looking at, the meat and potatoes of your resume. So making sure you have the right kind of information in there, with adding that focus on the required qualifications, understanding the required qualifications and make sure they've been showcased on your resume. We also address the preferred qualifications and adding those into your resume, but also talking about having preferred qualifications, but missing the required qualifications may still make you unqualified for the role, those type of things. Then we talk about how to tailor your resume a little bit, meaning that, we're all this one and the same, right? I don't think anybody on the call or the three of us ever like to tailor a resume every time we apply to a role, right? Like that's awful experience to do, right? So we understand that at the same time though too. So we really talk about how to craft a resume that doesn't need much tailoring. So it's related to these job descriptions. And, if you put that career focus on, you should be able to make a resume that doesn't need much tailoring as you apply to multiple roles, throughout your career. And we also talk about utilizing the job description and the information that's provided within it to help prepare for the interview process that we get to in this further on podcast, right? So we really talk about how to extract that information so that you can use it and be prepared should you get the interview, right? So I hope everybody likes my memes too. I built those myself. Go ahead, Jeff.
I like them. I think this is, and this, just if you're able to attend this one, this is a good foundational, and will dispel some myths, because sometimes people will say stuff like, I'm able to obtain a clearance, or I had a clearance 10 years ago, so it shouldn't be a problem getting a clearance. I'm a fast learner, just because, many times what you kind of convince yourself that, even though I see the requirements, I can overcome the requirements that I don't have. So I think this is a foundation. It's a big time saver. Many times I've had to tell people that's not the right position for you, because you don't have that clearance. And sometimes I hear it every day. People say, well, I should have a problem getting one. And so I
Right.
think this is a good foundation. This was because what can make you even frustrated, and why this class is so important is because, when you've spent a lot of time, applying for a position and you get an immediate response, it can be frustrating. It can be discouraging. It's because you gotta decode the job description and don't waste your time applying for positions that's going to get you immediately rejected. So you definitely want to attend this one.
Absolutely. And, I think as Jeff mentioned there, though, too, what it's going to really help is make you less frustrated applying to roles at the same time. Now, you might apply to less roles, but then you should increase the roles that you're meeting the qualifications for, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So you might apply to less roles, but then you'll be applying to qualified roles then at that same time, too. So, that's a big one. And, I think the three of us absolutely understand that being in today's job market is definitely a rough go. So understanding how to do some of these things will help make it certainly less frustrating. All right. And then on April 17th, spring, I can't wait because we're supposed to get this huge snow this weekend. So let's see how it works out. Yeah, I'm not a winter guy. So, so April 17th, 2026, mastering resumes and applicant tracking system optimization. So I like this one quite a bit. It's not terribly long one, so we do get a lot of time for questions, at the end of this one. But we really talk about creating a clear and simple format on the resume, making clean layouts. I think probably one of the biggest ones we touch on this one for me is the visual appeal versus the applicant tracking system compatibility. We look at a lot of resumes as a group, right? And there's kind of some things you should do and things you shouldn't do. So I think making something that looks great on paper might not be something that's going to read well to other people, though. Having information in random places, multi-columned resumes, those type of things. Those are things that can really slow down someone's ability to read your resume in that 10 to 15 second mark that we talk about, because that's the reality out here, right? So the reason you only get about 10 to 15 seconds, though, and we really touch on it on this particular one, is, when you look at being an employer, looking at candidates that have applied to your role, it's not uncommon for us to have hundreds of candidates that have applied to a role, right? So you have to read that many resumes. So if you're a recruiter, say you've got 10, 15 roles you're recruiting for, each role has 200, 300 people applied to it. In that sense, reading that many resumes fully is nearly impossible. So really what you get about that 10 to 15 seconds for your resume to pop up on that individual screen. And they're going to look at the first block of your resume and determine if they're going to look any further into your resume. So we really talk about creating a functional resume that reads well and kind of meets an industry standard, if you will. And you'd be surprised. You think there would be, I'm sure most people on the call right now probably think, oh, my resume looks great. I know it does. But after this one, you'll probably think, well, I could probably move a thing or two so that it's being read a little more easy. What about Brent, Jeff? Anything you guys want to add on this one? I know this one's a big one for me in that sense. The look.
The word readability, Brian. You said it, readability. So, you don't get plus points for graphics and all of that kind of stuff. Even when I tell people when you're going to job fairs, and you're creating these colored, you're spending money on ink cartridges on colored resumes. It's just basically we're looking for the content. The recruiters are looking for the content. So readability, does it flow easily where from the minute I open it or look at it, I start at the top. Does it answer all the questions that I'm looking for when it comes to your resume? So just keep that in mind. If you were just handing to someone that, maybe wasn't even a professional resume reader, would it be easy to read at the end of it? Would they be able to say, okay, this is what you do. This is how long you've been doing it. I see your certs. I see your education. I see, some of those keywords. Just make it easy for whoever's opening your resume, whether it's you're sharing it with someone or you're applying for a particular position. Readability. Just remember that word.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my favorite ones is this one is, especially, if you're retiring or something, like maybe you haven't made a resume in years, that kind of thing. One of my favorite kind of exercises I always tell people you can do to determine on your own if your resume's, telling the story right, is find someone that you at least an acquaintance. You might not want to go up to a complete stranger, but someone that maybe knows you a little bit but has no idea really what you do professionally, in that sense. And hand me your resume and be like, hey, quick question, can you look at my resume and in 10 seconds tell me what I do? And you'll be surprised how many people will be like, no, I don't. And you can only give them 10 seconds. So 10, 15 seconds at max. If in that 10 seconds, that person who doesn't have any idea what you do can't tell you what you do, then that's your signal, right? That's your red flag that, well, my resume is not hitting the mark. And you'll be surprised how easy it is to do that. Me and Jeff and Brent, we look at resumes a lot. We just did this massive job fair yesterday. We looked at hundreds of resumes. So, but I can tell you, it's not as, a lot of them don't hit as straight as you might be thinking. So this one's a good one if you feel like your resume might not be hitting those touch points like you think it does.
Yeah.
Oh, dang. I know. I swear I'm dehydrated though, y'all, from that job fair we did yesterday. So Jeff and I did a job fair yesterday. How many people were there, Jeff? Like 900.
Little over 900 people, and
So
yeah,
and yeah, my mouth isn't moving effectively today. Let me put it that way. So one of my favorite ones. So on May 22nd, Friday, May 22nd, leverage your LinkedIn for the job search. This is probably one of my favorite ones. I really like doing this one because, like I said, we use it a lot. And somehow over the years, in my ability to use LinkedIn as from a job search perspective and also as an employer, this one really hits the mark on how to use your LinkedIn for your career. Because LinkedIn isn't just something you do when you're just looking for a job at that rate. This is something you can do to create your professional database, if you will. So we talked about why LinkedIn matters to you, how recruiters use that platform, and dispel some common myths about the platform. I know we talk to a lot of cleared folks, right? And I couldn't tell you how many cleared folks I talked to and say, well, I don't have LinkedIn because I'm cleared and I don't want to put my information out there. And we talk about overcoming that, right? And so forth. We talk about the power of your profile, how to craft a strong profile that's targeted, and how to increase your algorithm so people see you when they're looking for you as recruiters, how to build your network strategically. We talk about connection etiquette and engagement, how to reach out to folks like us with a message and actually get folks to respond to you. Probably one of the biggest ones we talk about on that is not reaching out to folks and be like, hey, here's my resume. What do you have that I'm a fit for? I can tell you that we get that message quite a bit from folks, and I'm not very responsive to those because I don't do job searches for people, right? You do the job search. I help you get the job. There's a difference. So, so just keep that in mind. We do talk a lot about the connection etiquette, how to engage authentically and professionally. Also, we talk about some job search hacks on LinkedIn, how to search for jobs on LinkedIn, effective ways to do that, and tools that LinkedIn has that you might not know it does to help you find roles. And then we go into career fairs and networking events, how to utilize those correctly and effectively so that going to career fairs doesn't seem like a waste of your time at the same time and so forth. So this is one of my biggest ones. I love doing this one. I always like to throw out there, the last, I've been working at Peraton for a while now, but before that, my last couple of jobs didn't come from applying to jobs. They came from people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, even as well. And I still get those to today. Now, I'm not going anywhere because I love Peraton. I love my job here. But I get those messages still every week. I get someone say, hey, are you in the market? And I'm like, nope, no thanks.
Same here, Brian. Same here. And even to add to that, Brian, that's a good thing. And I think why this is such a crucial class when it comes to LinkedIn. And it may sound like we're promoting, like we work for LinkedIn. We really don't. But you have to pivot to where the people that have the ability, the influence, the access to recruiters, the information, If not, I mean, you're just kind of winging it on your own. And I get it. In many of you, some of you may be in the intelligence community, but some people just not privy to it, and they're I try to dispel the. Don't look at just the negative part of LinkedIn that you don't like. Look at the positive that's going to benefit you. And if you are in the job market, you just can't ignore this big piece of it, because it is a major piece to accessing and connecting with people that have the power to open a door for you. So we'll leave it at that. But it's definitely, you want to attend this one, and so we give you some practical examples of how it can benefit you. And as Brian said, I mean, my last couple jobs, it just didn't come from applying; it came from my network, and my network is all connected through LinkedIn.
Absolutely, and it's for me. I've always found LinkedIn almost weird like that. When you start to use it so much, and you do, and a lot of things happen on there. I go places and people are like, "Oh yeah, from LinkedIn." Like job fair yesterday, somebody's like, "Oh yeah, like, from LinkedIn,"
Yeah.
that kind of stuff as well. So that's how you really get networked in, and that's really the purpose of it. Because searching for a role right now, I'm sure many of you are aware. If you're just applying and praying that someone reaches out to you, it could be a long time. So this is our way of showing you how to frontward engage in the process and get people's attention and actually get responses and talking to recruiters or getting employee referrals from organizations that you're applying at. And we're a very aware team that, we might talk to 300 people a week, and we're very aware we're not going to get 300 people a week hired into Paraton. So that's why we like to give information to help folks just get the roles they're looking for, even if it might not be a Paraton at the end of the day.
It's Brian. It's so much bigger. I mean, one slide really couldn't even depict it.
No,
I mean, even just connecting with someone and following their postings where they give good advice, they have good articles, give you different insights. You can read an article and say, "Hey, I never looked at it from that perspective. I'm going to try that strategy to because I'm struggling in this area to get more interviews." And so it's more than even what's on that slide. So you can go ahead to the next one, Brian.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's such a powerful platform. It really is. And, you know, my final thought on that one is we really talk, it helps your algorithm, right? Because LinkedIn's algorithm based and it's activity based. And we really talk about how to manipulate your algorithm so that people are seeing you and then want to engage you at the same time. So that's what it really is. So on June 19th, that's session number 6 of the 6-part series. So we finish up on mastering interview success in the podcast series. This is kind of as we've pushed through those other things. This is the final piece, right? Now you've got an interview. So we talk about, familiarizing yourself with the company to an extent. We always say, we realize you don't work here, you don't know terribly much about Paraton, perhaps, but having some general base knowledge is certainly a good thing. I know I've personally talked to people that have said Peloton. Peloton. I'm like, no, we don't make bikes. We don't make stationary bikes, buddy. So, those little things like that could really hurt you in the long run. I've seen it happen. Job description mastery. This is where, in that other podcast we do on, decoding the job descriptions, where we talk about the information that you took from that job description and how to prepare your interview from the job description. Answer preparation. Probably one of the hardest questions folks have to answer, it seems like, because we do a lot of mock interview things and stuff like that. So we've asked this question to thousands of people, right? Tell me about yourself. You'd be surprised what you get in that answer. So we talked about how do you answer those types of questions effectively and concisely and relevant to the roles that you're applying to or interviewing for at that rate. The behavioral interview questions, tell me about a time you did this, or tell me about a time something didn't work. How did you handle that? So we talk about using the STAR method to answer scenario-based questions. That's a big piece of it, right? And we talk about how to prepare some STAR method scenarios, because I can guarantee in an interview, probably 10 out of 10 times that you're going to get asked a behavioral question, right? Problem solving strategies, how to overcome getting asked a question that you don't know the answer to. How do you answer that? What's an effective way to answer that? How to ask meaningful questions. Because obviously I think most people know anymore, but certainly in an interview process isn't the time to be asking about, benefits or paid time off or anything like that. Those aren't questions for an interview. So we really go into deep on this one. I do enjoy this one quite a bit. Might even have some guest speakers on some of these podcasts as well this year. So because we are starting our new season, this is the kickoff of our new season of the Mission Transition Podcast. So this one's good, and I think if you're somebody that's interviewed a couple of times and haven't been selected for the role, you absolutely have to attend this one. I think everybody should anyway, because I guarantee each one of these podcasts, you will learn something that you didn't know about being a candidate and searching for roles, right? So, absolutely attending these is key. They're good for future though too. Even if you're gainfully employed right now and you're not looking to make a move, some of these can be good if you do plan on eventually making that move, right? And understanding how to do the process effectively and less painfully, right? Jeff, anything you want to add? Brent, anything you guys want to add on the interview?
Well, just to add to the end of it, in any of these scenarios, and especially this interview for success, you always have to have a mindset of there's something that I can learn. There's something that I didn't know that you may have, like Brian said, already be employed and have interviewed hundreds of times. I can guarantee you're going to get some nugget to say, I never looked at it. In many cases, when it comes to the STAR, and for those that are transitioning, this may not be necessarily for people that's, you consider yourself well seasoned as far as being an interviewer, an interviewee, is when it comes to those STAR stories, I always, when I go to TAP classes, I tell them that you want to make sure that you have those STAR stories prepared. A few examples. So you're not looking up at the ceiling like, okay. So this mastery interview success, you can always learn something new, and also, especially from our perspective in talent acquisition, because we talk to them and to recruiters, daily, and say, hey, what wasn't this person selected, and so forth. So there's always something that you can learn that you didn't know from mastering the interviews.
Absolutely. This one's a fantastic one too. We put a lot of work into a couple of these to really deliver insider information, if you would like to call it. So that's how we like to give it from both perspectives, because the good thing is we've all transitioned from the military at some point. I know when I transitioned, it was awful. I transitioned twice and they were both awful. So I've learned from those experiences, at the same time. But even after transitioning, I've been that person applying to roles and trying to figure it out. And I've learned quite a bit of information, and we try to deliver it from both sides, from as now on the recruiter side, the employer side, what do we see? What do we look for? What catches our attention? What doesn't? What gets you passed over? What doesn't? Those type of things. So, we try to deliver it from both angles in that sense. So give you from the employer side of what we look at and what we look for, but also how you can engage it from a candidate side. So what we'll talk about is requesting support from our team though, right? So as we kind of mentioned on earlier, there's a little bit of connection etiquette to follow, right? So if you've ever been the person that's reached out to recruiters and said, hey, here's my resume, can you tell me what I'm qualified for at your company? And I can tell you, when I get that question, the answer is always like, no, I can't, no. Obviously I might be able to tell what kind of work you do, but I don't do the job search for people. Recruiters don't do job searching for people. So if that's your connection strategy, I'm guessing it probably isn't working very well. So this is how to request, conversations with us. Obviously after you've already emailed us back and forth a couple of times, it's a little bit different. But if it's your initial time reaching out to us, always attach your resume. It helps us find you if you're already in our applicant tracking system. We can look at previous roles you've applied to, what's happening. Got to get a mindset of what you're applying to and what kind of candidate you think you are. If you've already applied to roles, absolutely feel free to include those job numbers in the job description. Every role for Peraton has a job description number. Anymore, they should be starting with either 2025, it's starting now 2026, and another 6-digit number. if you've already applied to that role, absolutely feel free to shoot some bullet points over because I'm going to ask for them either way. But if you get ahead of the game, you send some bullet points about the role and how you've met those qualifications and requirements from that requirements section. We always tell folks to be patient on response, so as well. We're a small but mighty team, so we are quite a bit out and about. We do in-person events and all kinds of stuff. And it's not uncommon for us to have, back-to-back events some days. So we might not be, literally in the office or sitting at our desks for a couple of days sometimes. But I think we're all very good. I think we're all kind of the same. We get a little OCD for unread messages. So we don't like to see, unread messages. So we get back as soon as we can. And I know for most of us, it's usually within 24 hours anyway. Avoid asking general questions about openings. Instead of asking what roles am I qualified, be specific about roles you're interested in, receive tailored guidance from us, really. So even if you haven't applied to a role, but you want to reach out and be like, hey, Jeff, here's my resume. I was thinking about applying to this role. We'll look it up and tell you like, hey, actually, it looks like they might have someone in the hiring process on that role. So you might want to move on to another one, that type of thing as well. So, I know I'm happy to do that. I'm pretty sure that the rest of the team is too. But definitely don't just send us your resume and be like, tell me what I'm qualified for at your company. That's too unspecific for us. And the reason why, it's not that we wouldn't love to do that, but you got to understand we have volume though too. And that means if 10 people a day are asking me to find them a job, I would never get anything else done because I think we're all aware it takes time to look for a job, does it not? So it takes me the same kind of time to do it just as much as with you. So,
I think
I know this one.
And those are great points, Brian, because the size of Paraton, a company, an 18,000 person company, and so if you just think about it, when you ask a particular recruiter, hey, what kind of job, what kind of cyber opportunities do you guys have? That is a very broad, like no all of our cyber opportunities, a company our size, it's the hundreds of opportunities, sometimes thousands of positions on our careers page. So just think about it that way. If it was really easy, if all it took for you was to ask a question, then you probably didn't go further enough. You didn't invest a lot in it. I always tell the job seekers is this: you do your part and I'll do mine. But if you don't do your part, then it kind of stops, like Brian said. So and this even connects to, for those of you that were anti-LinkedIn, this the benefit of LinkedIn to be able to connect with people, such as ourselves, but in any other company, to ask these types of questions, to ask for assistance, rather than just, as Brian mentioned, just applying and praying. But you do have to do your part. And I would tell you, just us coming from an event yesterday with almost 900 people, I know my box is full right now. But I would tell you, when I'm going through, I'm looking for the ones that did what I told them to do. They put the work in. They found an opportunity. They said, hey, Jeff, this is the position I'm preparing for, or I've applied for this position. Here's the job ID number in the resume, like Brian mentioned. Those are the ones that probably will get the fastest response, because they put the work in. They did what you should have done. So, and I would tell you, maybe out of 10 people, maybe 2 or 3 that may actually do it. But this is a good strategy on how to get support from us. Don't, as Brian mentioned, I can't emphasize it more, just those general statements. I get stuff like, hey, Jeff, I'd like 30 minutes to pick your brain. Like, really? And my response is, how can I help you? What do you need? Not, can I pick your brain? So, and I would tell you, that's not a lot of companies that gives you these guidelines on how to, for us to better assist you. I don't know any company that gives you this guideline on what to do as far as requesting assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. I think, everyone that's joined us today, we're big on talking about, networking into an organization is the way to do it. And you have 3 people right here that are saying, network with us, we'll help you get in. But we'd be surprised how many people still don't do that. But this pretty much will be the end of the informational exchange of the session. So we do have our Q&A though. So folks, if please stick around, feel free to answer any questions. I know Brent's been in that discussion box. So, this is the time to ask these questions. You can ask any kind of questions you want, on this type of panel. So we'll go ahead and open that up, so that's the end of, the information exchange. We hope everybody maybe even got something out of this one today. We hope everyone will come back to these future sessions where we go into very deep dives on that information as well. So that's it right there. So Brent, I'll kick it open. Do we have any questions that we've had hidden?
Brian, I only see one that we did not get to answer, but I don't see the reply yet. I know it was the last one that we got, and I really don't want to. But it was like any and all social media profiles, including LinkedIn, are monitored and not encouraged. If one has an active security clearance, can you address it, please? My question back was, are you asking about putting that on your profile on LinkedIn, or just having a clearance in general and not going on LinkedIn or Facebook or X or whichever profile it is that you're talking about, to include clearancejobs.com and .net?
Nice,
so
nice.
I didn't see another response, but from personal experience, LinkedIn, I know a lot of people that are intel professionals, whether it's counter intel, human intel, and the majority of them all do list their clearance. Anytime that you see a job or a listing that you want to apply for, definitely go to our portal to do so, and you're actually going to a secure portal versus clicking the apply now on LinkedIn and not knowing where your resume is going at that point.
Absolutely. And one thing one thing I like to put out there, I'm going to let Jeff do it because I love Jeff's answer on this one. Because people ask that quite a bit. But, one thing I like to throw out there is, the Director of National Intelligence has a LinkedIn. So that should tell you, if the Director of National Intelligence has one, if every, all these Director of CIA has one, the Director of the FBI has one, Director of NSA has one, all those things. So that should be a clue that it's okay to have one. But what you do have to be, of course, is very diligent, right? So you do have to be diligent on the people that are trying to connect with you, on what information obviously that you're sharing on there, and not oversharing, of course, but having some basic stuff on there and having some of your basic role, it's doable. It's very doable. In that sense. But Jeff, I'll let you do this one because you got a good answer on this one.
Yeah, the one thing about when it comes to listing your information or even just being on social media, it's okay to say that you're a SIGINT analyst. That's not classified information. As Brian mentioned, putting down missions and locations and stuff that that will probably need to go through pre-pub when it comes to your resume. It's okay to have just general stuff on it. And I would tell you, if you're applying for a job, you're going to have to get on something. Indeed, Clear Jobs, some type of platform. Our primary one is LinkedIn. For the sake of time, this is the one that's the most popular. This is one that probably 98% of recruiters, talent acquisitions are on it. So if you're not on it, you're not being seen. When it comes to the bad guys, which many people have said that are on LinkedIn looking for, people to try to, gather information or identify certain people. If you're on a mission in Bosnia, you're not going to have that on your LinkedIn profile. You probably should have Washington, D.C., which is, maybe where that headquartered organization is at. You don't have to put down exactly where you're located at if you're out on a mission or you were, you were out of some classified location. Also, when it comes to LinkedIn, as far as the bad guys, you can pretty much identify, you can kind of tell if somebody's reaching out to you on LinkedIn and they're asking some questions that are a little prying, some information that's probably doesn't sound right. You can always reach out to the company. You can always call the company and say, hey, I had Brian Acton reached out to me on LinkedIn and he asked if I had a resume. Does he work there? Does Brian Acton work there? and they'll verify. Yes, he does. You can always jump off LinkedIn and use email if you feel more comfortable communicating um, off that platform. You can use email and you can verify information. So I think when people just say I'm in the intelligence community, it's kind of a, to me personally, it's kind of a cop out, and it's also it's a I would even say it's a not a good understanding that how many of people like you are out there, because sometimes we think we are this small community. I'm the only one that has this, that's worked in this agency, or I'm on the dark side. We're not asking for dark side information, or
Right.
I have this full scope poly, not realizing hundreds of thousands of people have full scope poly. And in many cases, if you don't identify yourself as a person with that, and even on resume, some people won't put it on their resume. I'm like, you're missing out on an opportunity for someone to actually engage you. They'll, because if you don't, they'll just assume you don't have one. And some people actually think it's the recruiter's job to call you to ask you if you have a polygraph. And I would tell you, I'm like, everybody's not doesn't have time to do that. So
Yeah.
I know that's a long response, but I would tell you, if you're searching for a job, you have to broaden your horizons and you have to put yourself out there. But there's also some basic parameters that you can have if you just feel like this is sounds like a bad guy trying to get information. Then shut it down, call the company, find out if this is a real person.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's a kind of a good rule of thumb off that too. You know, when you start talking about what information to put on there, if, if you've gotten your resume cleared,
Yeah,
then that
mm-hmm.
information's safe for LinkedIn as well at the
Yes.
same time. Because you got to be aware when you're applying to jobs at random companies, it's going in somewhere else digitally anyway, and that type of thing. So, you know, it's okay to have a clearance and have LinkedIn. Um, you know, I think for as long as I've been doing LinkedIn, once in a blue moon you get that message from someone that might be nefarious. And I wouldn't say I'm the smartest guy on the planet. If I can pick them out pretty easy, I'm sure everybody else kind of can too.
Yes.
Especially if they're saying, hey, I got this job if you're interested in it. We just need your driver's license number, the last four of your social. It's like, yeah, okay, sorry about it. No thanks.
Exactly.
you know,
I'll
that
start
kind of thing.
asking you questions about missions and classified information. Those are red flags. But for the most part, I would tell you, and this is whoever's listening to this, from Jeff Carson, Brian Acton, and Brent Barrington, I would tell you, um, it's a safe place if you just stick to the parameters um, of what we just mentioned. It's a safe place. People are using it. It's a must have. So we wouldn't tell you if it was not safe, as long as you just set some parameters around where you're at. But I would tell you, if you're just anti LinkedIn because the government told you to stay off of it, it's just, you just can't take every piece of advice and run with it. Because bottom line is, you got to find a job. And if you're struggling with reaching out to players and people that have access to open doors, it may be because of your own doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great answer, Jeff. I always love your answer on that one. So, uh, I think that was something that actually came to my mind recently, though, because I did have someone that was cleared that was asking me, well, I don't have LinkedIn, but I heard, if I'm in Intel and have a clearance, I shouldn't really have one. And so that's what I said. Well, like the director of national intelligence has one, for Christ's sake. Because, like, I mean, sheesh. That kind of stuff. But have we missed any? I was kind of scanning through it. Brent, did we have any other questions that we might have missed? Or
No, sir. We are all
I
caught up.
think they changed the chat a little bit. I'm not used to the chat looking like this. It's doing them by singly like that. That's kind of cool, though. I like that. Um, no, that's great. Um, and I think if we don't have a lot of questions at the moment, I see we do still have folks that are listening though. So, um, with LinkedIn though too, it's really understanding the power of it, though, for us anyway, is because I've been in talent acquisition a real long time, and not that the other platforms aren't perhaps a necessity when you're in the job hunt. But I can tell you, as someone that's done full hard sourcing, where I'm out here trying to find candidates all day for specific roles, the first place I always go is LinkedIn. It's not Monster, it's not Indeed, it's not any of those other platforms. I go straight to LinkedIn, and I will spend 2 or 3 days on that before I touch any of those other things, if I ever do, in that sense. So,
and Brian, add something to that, what you just said. Peraton we're a large company. And so our budget for many of our talent acquisition specialists, we may have the budget to be able to afford all of these subscriptions to clearance jobs, Indeed. But, I've worked for small companies. Brian, you've worked for small companies before. And sometimes small company doesn't have the budget to pay for subscriptions for all of those resources. And so I've been with a company where they may have allowed me to get one subscription to maybe cleared jobs because we have clear positions, and that was it. And so when I depleted those applicants in cleared jobs, I now relied on LinkedIn, right, which offered a lot more people for free. So you can't even assume. So I've asked people, and many of them have said, "Well, I'm on Indeed, or I'm on cleared jobs." Well, what if a company that has an openings for you didn't have the budget for those, subscriptions, or, they only have 10 recruiters, only 3 of them had access to it. Now you've missed out on an opportunity, if you're not on LinkedIn, to be possibly seen by not only big companies, and medium sized, but also small companies.
absolutely.
So,
yeah, I mean, that's a good add-in right there, because I didn't even think of that one, because same for me. I mean, I've worked at a small company before too, where, we couldn't afford a clearance jobs license basically because they're so expensive, right? And when I say expensive, I don't think folks understand, like, those things cost tens of thousands of dollars just for one license, and those things. So the beauty is as recruiters, we functionally learned how to use LinkedIn that way, right? From both the candidate side, I learned to use it as a candidate, and I've also mastered it as a recruiter as well. How do I use LinkedIn to find people and that kind of thing? And I have more success on LinkedIn, when I was doing sourcing work than I did on any other platform, to be honest, because I could reach out to people. Obviously, I've tried Indeeds and the Monsters and stuff like that, and you could send 500 messages and nobody would reply. But if I send a message on LinkedIn as a recruiter, I have a good tailored message, a good introduction of myself, and people would respond, even to tell me no.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even as a job seeker, on LinkedIn, you could join a cyber professional group, and it'd be maybe only exclusive to cyber professionals, and you may have a cyber background. And so it may be a closed group where they only allow cyber professionals in it, or cyber recruiters. So you join this group and you let the group know, I am currently looking for a job. There are so many descriptions, some examples that we could give you, that the average person that's really not well, focused on how LinkedIn works, they just make a decision on it and say, I don't use it. And it's because they really don't understand the capacity that it has to increase your chance of being seen, and possibly landing a job. Yeah. Every now and then I run into somebody where after 5 minutes, me trying to convince them, and they say, I'm not with it. And I'm like, that's it. You really are closed-minded. You will probably struggle. And I've even given them an example that, this is in some cases managers. And I said, giving them an example of how, as a program manager at a company, and say you have some positions under your authority in your department, and your recruiters are trying to help fill those vacancies, that recruiter may ask you to possibly share the job within your network, because it's these types of positions may be under your authority. You may know people, you may have served with people with this background, and can you I'm not on LinkedIn. You've closed the door to possibly even helping your own company or helping yourself fill positions under your authority.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, that's a good one. So I guess everyone that's on with us right now, I can probably tell our LinkedIn podcast one. We delivered a lot of good information on that one on how to really use LinkedIn in a very effective manner, how to build functional networks for yourself, and have a footprint that's visible on some of those things as well. So yeah, absolutely. Um, and also want to make sure, I'm not sure if everyone can see the screen. I don't know how big it is or what kind of devices everyone's on, but you can certainly reach out to our team at militaryconnect@peraton.com. That is a monitored email. Of course, you can reach out to all three of us on LinkedIn as well. And we also have our careers website, careers.peraton.com. You can certainly go to that and look at the roles that we have available on there. We also have a military and veterans page on there where you can see the events we have listed on there that we may be going to in the future if you're looking to attend some career events and so forth. We don't put every event on there. Like if we go to TAPS classes and stuff like that, those don't go on there. So all public events, anything we would do that would be a career fair or a public related event like that will be on our events page as well. And there's other events that are listed on there too that other parts of talent acquisition are taking place in as well. We also have our recorded sessions of our other podcasts on there. But if you do watch those, I still suggest coming to when we redo them because we do change the information, as we learn new things or as these things change or as our company grows and how applying here changes at the same time too. So, with that, some of that good information as well. But hopefully I see a whole bunch of LinkedIn requests after this, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like we really have any more questions, guys. I guess I'll leave it up to the group. What do you guys think? We should give it a call? We still got a good amount of people on. I don't know who's listening or not, though. We can keep. We're three people that can yammering away, folks. Let me tell you.
Oh, yeah, great. I would probably also let as a reminder, Brian, that this is a recorded session, and all sessions are recorded. You can let them know where they can find them at. I think this is a good resource for you to refer back to. It's also easy listening for, say, for example, you may not have time to sit and just independently listen. You can play it in your car. Many times I've listened to repeat sessions just driving, so you can have it running at any given time. But it's always great information to share. And as Brian mentioned about networking isn't always just benefiting you. So it's when you can share this information, you can share these recordings to colleagues, friends, your kids coming out of college, whoever it may be. Even though it's a mission transition for tailored towards military veterans, it's for everybody. This applies. This isn't for veterans only.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the piece of it. Well, I do know we talk a lot, quite a bit about the military and veterans community. That's the team we are, right? But the information we deliver is valuable to anybody that's literally, in the job market in that sense. And like Jeff said, if anybody wants to reach out to me at that militaryconnect@peraton.com, I can shoot you back the link to the YouTube playlist of our Mission Transition podcast series as well. So the company did make me a nice playlist on LinkedIn. So I just actually found that out after we did the last updates to the website. But all right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and close it out then, huh? So on behalf of Peraton, on behalf of our military and veterans team, we certainly like to thank everyone that has joined us this afternoon. We really appreciate coming in, listening to what we have to say. We know we're not the most entertaining people on the planet, but hopefully you got something out of today's session and also interested in attending our upcoming sessions where we're going to very deep dives on those topics as well. And my last and final thought, my Jerry's thought of the day is, if you're feeling frustrated in the job hunt, just know, you're not the only one. If you're transitioning out right now and it's a little overwhelming, just know you're not the only one. And that's why folks like us are out here, so we can, hopefully be of some assistance in helping you make those efforts more fruitful. Jeff, anything you'd like to add as a last thought?
Well, I would also reiterate, as Brian mentioned, Um, don't go it alone. It can be, depressing sometimes. So just stay positive. One of the things I always tell people is that coming out of the military, sometimes you're in the mindset of I'm looking for this dream job, and so look at it as getting on first base. Sometimes you have to get on first base, which is get in a position, get a job, and then grow there. Doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to stay at one company for the next 4 years. It's not a duty assignment. You're not enlisted, and you're not commissioned anymore. And just be flexible. Be coachable. There's no single path to landing a job. So that's why we cover all these different areas. It's not just I got certifications, I got this education, and I got a resume. You still need to apply all these different areas, these different podcasts that we're covering. They're all to help you to become a better, complete applicant and separate yourself from the pack. I'll leave it at that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Brett, any final thoughts for the crowd?
Thoughts are just going to be I look forward to all the connections, and hopefully I'll see everybody plus for the next podcast. So definitely looking forward to it, guys.
Awesome. Once again, thanks everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing everyone at our next section next month. Everyone will get an invite. Thank you.
Thanks.